Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba of Japan announced Sunday that he planned to resign as Prime Minister, plunging his country into a deep political crisis. Japan is grappling with rising right-wing populism at home. There's also heightened unpredictability from its key ally, the United States. Shigeru Ishiba, who was elected to lead the governing Liberal Democratic Party just last September, he's barely been in office as Prime Minister for a year, he's now chosen to step down to prevent a split within the party. The LDP has ruled Japan for more than 60 out of the last 70 years. But now, Japan, which happens to be one of the world's most stable democracies, faces a political moment of reckoning. It's grappling with a host of pressing challenges. The foremost is its strained relationship with its chief ally, the United States. In the wider Asian region, it also has to contend with an increasingly assertive China. There's also stubborn economic woes that have alienated an entire generation of young people.
I was surprised because I knew him, I liked him, and he's just now stepping down. A little bit surprised. I found him to be a very nice man, actually. We dealt very well together.
The risk is that Japan returns to the politics of indecisiveness, the kind of revolving door of prime ministers like we saw in the 1990s and the early 2000s. Another possibility is that the centrist politics of the ruling LDP far more forcefully embraces far-right populism, which has been on the rise in Japan of late. In fact, two right-wing parties made significant gains in the recent parliamentary elections, leading the LDP to lose its parliamentary majority. Japan has been going through a period of unusually rapid change. Inflation, which had been almost zero for decades, is now high at 3%. Anti-foreigner sentiment is also surging. There's an influx of international workers and tourists because of the falling birth rates in Japan. Trade talks with the Trump administration have been unpredictable, and many Japanese, in fact, have felt betrayed by Trump after his tariff threats. In July, Prime Minister Ishiba's Liberal Democratic Party, which has ruled, like I said, for more than 60 out of the last 70 years, suffered a bruising defeat in parliamentary elections. Japanese voters rebuked the LDP for its handling of the economy, immigration, and trade relations with the Trump administration. There was also a political finance scandal and an ongoing shortage of rice. Rice happens to be the staple food in Japan. Ishiba's ruling coalition lost 19 out of the 60-odd seats which were up for re-election, as a result of which it ended up losing its majority in the upper house of the Japanese parliament. That defeat in July, along with an earlier blow which happened in a lower house election last October, left the Liberal Democrats a minority in both houses of the Diet, which is Japan's parliament. As voters turned to other parties, other far-right parties which made striking gains, particularly among young people. The biggest winners in July were two conservative parties, including one called Sansito, which was launched by a former English teacher who turned into a politician. In the end, Ishiba could not quell calls to step down from within his own party. On Sunday, he announced the painful decision to resign. He said he ultimately decided that he should take responsibility for the disastrous election results.
米国関税措置に関する交渉に一つの区切りがついた今こそがそのしかるべきタイミングであるとこのように考え後進に道を譲る決断をいたしました。
The central question now is who will succeed Ishiba. LDP officials are expected to discuss this week how and when to hold a leadership election that will choose a future leader. The contenders include Shinjiro Koizumi. He's the agricultural minister. He's also the son of a popular ex-prime minister, Junichiro Koizumi. Then there is Sane Takaichi, who's a hardline conservative who was in fact endorsed by former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, who was assassinated in 2022. Then there is Yoshimasa Hayashi, who's the chief cabinet secretary, who's seen as a close aide of Ishiba. Or it could be a surprise dark horse. But the candidates who are vying to succeed Shigeru Ishiba will face pressure to make the party more responsive to public concerns, particularly to younger voters. Given its minority position in both houses of parliament, the ruling party might also look for someone who has an ability to work with other parties. Overall, the LDP wants a leader who can help unify the party and also help it connect with the public, particularly young and urban voters. Voters are concerned about everyday struggles, including the high cost of living. The trade troubles with America also played a huge part. Ishiba's government spent months negotiating a trade deal with Washington that left Japanese exports with a 15% tariff across the board. Ishiba's government has had to deftly manage tensions with a rather mercurial Donald Trump since his re-election last year. Japan and the United States took more than 6 months to negotiate a trade deal, at the end of which Japanese exports had to pay a 15% tariff, similar to South Korea, but higher than the UK. Ishiba said that he had been thinking of resigning since the loss in the July election, but he was waiting for the right time given the ongoing trade negotiations. After Trump signed the executive order last week that fixed the tariffs on Japanese exports at 15%, Ishiba saw it as the right moment to step down, leaving his country in the throes of a major political vacuum.